let's get into a little bit into the case here. I mean, how much could one be liable in a case like this? You mentioned deep pockets of corporations, celebrities, any sort of, I don't know if there's any sort of standard as to what one could possibly gain here.
Well, there are standards. There are different types of damages you can collect in a case like this. And I'll be a little general, but there were, I would say, three main categories, arguably four. It's just back pay, right? They're alleging, in some cases, they're alleging they were outright terminated. One of the plaintiffs is alleging that she resigned because of the conditions. So part of it is back pay. You can collect your salary from the date you were wrongfully terminated, if it's determined if you were wrongfully terminated, to today, right? You can collect all of that money. Now, it hasn't been a very long time. These terminations and resignations, forced resignations, were just a few months ago. So there's that component. There's a second component called compensatory damages, and that's a broad component. That's where you hear things about emotional pain and suffering, the damage that somebody suffers as a result of being discriminated against and mistreated in the workplace. And there's no formula for that, right? Like there's a formula for back pay. It's pretty easy. We could add it up.
Right.
Compensatory damages for emotional pain and suffering, I hate to say it, but juries kind of make it up.
Do these tend to be jury cases? Are they always jury cases?
These tend to be jury cases, and they have a right to a jury in a case like this. So, you have attorneys persuading a jury how severe this was and the impact it had on the individual and why the award should be X. And then you have somebody else explaining either that what they're alleging isn't that severe, or maybe that whatever they're suffering is a result of something else. Maybe they had a pre-existing condition. And in fact, one of the plaintiffs actually alleges she had suffered from
an eating
anxiety.
Disorder. Yeah. But what is the third bucket? You said, so there's the compensatory, there's back pay. What is the third category?
So the third bucket is punitive damages. And that's where things can get serious. Punitive damages have nothing to do with somebody's actual damages. They are simply a statement from the fact finder, jury, or judge to the defendant saying, your conduct was so egregious, willful, outrageous, that we're punishing you. And that, for a large corporation or a high net worth individual, if it's found they acted so outrageously, those are where the awards can become very big. The fourth thing I just want to answer really quickly that I mentioned in the thing is they also can collect their attorney's fees. And that can become significant if a matter continues on for a significant period of time. Sometimes
so we're talking millions. I mean, I'm familiar with corporations having these sorts of judgments. I'm not aware of many celebrities who've had workplace type judgments. Is this something that happens often in Hollywood, or would it be an anomaly if she's found guilty?
I don't think it happens often, and I do recall that some celebrity chefs had cases brought against them. I think those were largely in wage cases where employees were alleging that they weren't paid the minimum wage or other benefits they were supposed to receive. And there were some large awards in those cases. But this could end up being rather unique. I mean, there have been some civil cases against celebrities, notably recently because of a verdict in the UK. Kevin Spacey had been sued civilly for certain sexual related misconduct. It was found not liable. So it isn't.
And that was him. That was his personal actions as opposed to the environment he was created. So what would you be looking for? Let's take both sides. Let's start with the plaintiffs. Obviously, they felt they had a strong enough case to bring forward. Were there particular flags that you thought, yes, this should have been something that at the very least should have been addressed or could have been a red flag to Lizzo's team?
Well, I'll start with a little bit of the unsatisfying answer that these are just allegations, right? So there's nothing proven. Right. So I guess what you do is you sort of play it both sides. You say, let's assume these are correct. Let's first assume that what the plaintiffs are saying can be proven. You do have a lot here that's problematic. Not all of it. I think a lot of the allegations are somewhat conclusory. There are a lot of allegations that seem to be jumping to conclusions as to what was in other people's minds. But definitely, forcing or highly encouraging with the pressure of your job on the line to engage in sexual conduct against your will. And by the way, off premise conduct, right? It doesn't have to happen on stage, doesn't have to
Yeah.
happen in the office, in the back room. These are events that the employer is condoning. That should be avoided. You should never put an employee in that position. And at the first sign that there's any kind of hesitation for an employee to do that, that's it. You got to
Yep.
stop. So assume what they are alleging is correct. Yeah, there are violations here. Some of the other ones
Let's
are a
talk
little
about the
more.
defendant. No, go ahead. Go ahead. There are other things you want to mention?
Well, some of the other ones are a little more vague, I would say. There were allegations of religious discrimination where one of the key people, spoke and preached a lot about her religious beliefs and, pushed the idea of being against premarital sex. The interest, and this is where you start to dissect complaints. You have that, and then you also have allegations that this same person was uh, simulating oral sex and talking about masturbation. So
So
it's
which is it, right?
which is not that it can't be both, but it makes one look at the complaint with kind of a crooked eye, right? What's really happening here?